Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, the jury unanimously voted guilty, which was not good, but thankfully we were able to sway their opinions, mostly by attacking the character of the two Skulkin brothers here. Or as I like to call them, the subpar Curio brothers. Ah boy. At the time of this recording, Super Mario Wonder is about to come out. It's less than a week away. Oh, I can't wait for that game. It's probably going to be so good. Right, so now we're getting new testimony from them, and I do believe last time we ended off by pressing this second statement here, and then it got amended to something new. So I think we need to press this and see what we can get. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun!"
Hold it!
So in fact you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously? We did, Gov, we did.
Although, I suppose if you're being honest, we heard a kind of wavering voice before the yell and all.
If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun. Bam! Thanks for the demonstration, fellas. Kinda thing. A career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from? Could you tell? Of course we could. From the other side of that door behind the counter it was. From the storeroom where the victim was found dead. Now this testimony is quite interesting. The lines that apparently were spoken, and indeed as seen in their spur-of-the-moment reenaction there, it sounds like a conversation that would be had face-to-face, but as I recall, Windibank was shot from behind. And what's more, if things did get heated, I don't feel like... I don't know enough just yet, but it's weird. I feel like the crime scene was definitely doctored. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Windibank. On me granny's life, of course it was.
On his granny's life, 'cause it was.
His granny's. So that would mean that you both knew Mr. Windibank and the sound of his voice?
So that would mean what?
What, Nash, what? Any ideas? Yes, Counsel, indeed it would.
Nah, we didn't know the geezer.
How am I supposed to deny it when that bloke and all the fancy clobbers giving us the evil eye? If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true. On me granny's life it is.
On his granny's life it must be.
It's a good job his granny's dead. To summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor. You make it sound like we're clumsy.
Don't forget we tidied up after like good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it, the bloke what owned the place was holding a gun, so he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl.
Hold it!
You're saying that Mr. Windibank had a gun in his hands?
Oh yeah, bet that was a sight, eh? Them two waving them guns at each other must have got pretty heated. I mean, just before he shouted out, We heard the geezer say if you don't want to get shot.
Didn't really sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say. Mr. Windibank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course. Good grief! Extraordinary devotion indeed, if alarmingly misguided.
Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night. Only the person he was gonna shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose proper.
Bet he wished he'd squeeze the trigger instead of wasting time shouting, "Give me that gun."
And it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot? It was more or less the same time, Gov. Give me that gun! Bam!
Kind of thing.
Yes, a career in acting very tragically missed.
God, I love that secret handshake. It's so stupid.
And then we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck. Before everything went dead quiet.
After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up.
Lummy, it didn't half give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter'd come out the door and get us next.
Hold it!
So, you didn't try to open the storeroom door then? Not on your life.
It went deathly quiet after that, it did. Put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, weren't it? No way that was opening.
Yes, of course. It was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe.
It was, Gov, it was, from the inside.
Right, so we had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we? Unless there was some other way to get a view of the inside of the storeroom. Like through the keyhole, or a spy hole, perhaps? Don't ring no bells, don't light no lights.
We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that.
We're still cutting our teeth in this game, see? But one day, we'll really cut the mustard.
You're making these up at this point.
Please, cut it out.
Yeah, I can only think of cutting the cheese, which I don't know if it's a thing elsewhere in the world, but I understand it to be slang for farting.
But as we know, behind that door was the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately. Gina was in there, unconscious, with a gun in her hand. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom?
That's right, Gov, that's right.
Couldn't have, even if we wanted to.
We stuck everything back, but we found it and scarpered. Straight into him in the black.
Hold it!
Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Oh, yeah, it was a bit hasty there.
We was, Nash, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up.
If you're shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand.
Good advice, miss, good advice.
Truth be told, my mind went totally blank. Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand. Mental note made, miss.
After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or summit, so they clapped the darbies on us like winking.
And after you'd been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct?
Well, yeah.
But listen, that proves it, doesn't it, eh? We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we?
Hold it!
And why should we believe that? Huh? What? Well, 'cause it's true, isn't it?
The place was totally empty when we went in.
At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbrokery, Mr. Windibank. Correct.
You've got it, mister.
Down to a T. So the Skulkin brothers never actually encountered Mr. Windibank. Is that really true, I wonder? Well, off the top of my head, it sounds true. That's it? That's the full extent of their testimony? What is it, Runo? You look very fierce. I could pour you some herbal tea if you're tired. Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'll probably laugh. But I feel as though these brothers are still hiding something important. It is nothing more than a feeling, though. I have no proof to support it. Well, feelings can be very logical at times. Sorry? People's expressions, the movement of their eyes, the words they choose. You can take all that in and your brain will quietly analyze it to come up with a feeling like you describe. You've concluded that there's something suspicious about this testimony without knowing why, that's all. I think you should trust your instincts. Iris, thank you. Sometimes I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5. Alright, let's see. We did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Gimme that gun." Because none of our evidence has anything to do with audio, I think we can, beside the music discs, but that's musical notes, not like tape recorder, so I don't think we can counter this at all, so the bloke what owned the place was holding a gun, so we should have just fired it instead of yelling at the girl. It didn't have to give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter would come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it and scarpered straight into him in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker. We never even had a chance, did we? I mean, if you really want to split hairs and get technical, you could absolutely point a gun through the opening in the door, the same hatch that Ryunosuke spied the two bodies on the floor. That would absolutely be a chance. And this is the one that Ryunosuke was like, huh? Hold on a second. I think I might have something here. Let's see. What's troubling to me, though, is that I don't think we have anything that's directly, distinctly about the door. Crap. And, well, the smoking gun isn't too helpful, because if we're to posit that they were the ones who shot Windibank, well, both these guns only fired a single bullet.
I think it's very safe to say that the gun that shot Herlock Sholmes was indeed this gun. But it's also possible that there was some situation that allowed the Skulkin brothers to shoot Windibank with this gun first. Alright, so... simply put, I think I am actually genuinely stumped here. That's the second time that's happened in this game. Now, the first time it happened, it was, let's be real, it was bullcrap. I needed to press something twice in a row without any discernible change in the testimony. That was stupid. But this? No, this one's definitely a failing on my part. I can't quite connect the right pieces. Let's take this from the top one more time. We did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. This we established with the stereoscope with the photographs. We saw that the pile of books were knocked over and moved slightly to the right, I think? Yeah, it was the right, from our perspective anyway. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun." We have nothing possible here that can contradict this, so... I gotta take it at face value, at least for now. The bloke what owned the place was holding a gun. Wait a second. Oh. Hold on. How did you know he was holding a gun? Like, you look here at number 6. Never had a chance. You saw him. And what's more... Yeah, everything else they're saying is talking about how a gunshot rang out and that was presumably what killed Mr. Windibank. But here they're saying Windibank himself was holding a gun, but only one gun was recovered from that room. This one's weird. How do I... Let's see. I want to try this. Windibank was holding a gun. Meanwhile, his own gun here, per the evidence it says Gina was holding when she was found. I think this is the contradiction, I think.
Objection!
Crap! Ah, I can already tell. The music didn't silence. There's clearly something odd about that last statement made by the witnesses. There is clearly something odd here indeed. Your behavior, Counsel. Oh, please don't mind me. That would be significantly easier if you would lower your hand. I won't lower my hand until I prove my client's innocent. As long as it's quite quick. Alright. Oh, son of a... I just... Idea. You know, the photograph of Gina and Windibank. Oops. Windibank's not holding a gun here. How could he get a gun?
Objection!
Alright. I was barking up the right tree, just at the wrong squirrel, as it were. You're saying that on the night in question, The victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun, is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture.
He has, Nash, he has, no question.
And yet the photographic evidence from the time of the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not in possession of a firearm of any description.
Objection!
You surprise me. Does the defense really intend to highlight evidence that compromises the position of the accused even more?
Furthermore, the defense has failed to establish that the photographic print presented was taken a suitably short time prior to the victim's death. Your chronology is severely lacking, counsel.
Yeah, that's right.
Too right, Nash, too right. The old geezer could have been able to turn the tables on the girl, eh?
Hardly likely.
No, I'm afraid this won't stand as conclusive evidence. Continue with the cross-examination, counsel, and heed my earlier warning, witnesses.
A skulkin's never skulkin'. So we just accomplished nothing? Right. I think we need to contradict something with this statement right here, learn something new, and then circle back around to number 3. That's what I'm thinking here. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker. We never even had a chance, did we? I mean, this blueprint doesn't show anything about the door. There's nothing directly about the door. This photo's after the murder took place. Crap. Oh, did we even look at this? Huh. Don't think we did, but sure. Nothing useful there. I'll get this. I want to work it out on my own. I feel like I'm missing something really simple. What could have given them the chance? Oh. The orientation of the body? Hold on. Maybe... Where's the floor plan? There it is. If Windibank truly fell in that location, I know I've theorized that this crime scene was doctored, but if he truly fell there, he could absolutely be shot in the back from the door. But then it is an upward trajectory, and given how short Ringo is, it would have to be Nash who would do the shooting, probably. And I feel like as he peered through the hatch, it would be level, not upward. Alright, maybe it's not this, even though Ryunosuke said it was weird. Is there anything else? You were thinking the shooter would come out the door and get us next, but that would be impossible because the gun that was in there only had one bullet, but no, it's just... that feels like incidental. It could be easily explained away, like just through panic. No... Alright, well... I think I am stumped. In the interest of time, I will look up what I need to do here. I'll admit it. Oh boy, sure enough, yeah. I feel like a dummy. Right, so let's try barking at that third squirrel that's up the tree. The crime scene photograph. This photo of the body as it was found shows him quite clearly that he was not holding a gun at all. Third time's the charm.
Objection!
So you're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun? Is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture. I do.
He has, she has, no question.
And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not holding a firearm of any description.
You what?
Gordon Bennett, that ain't right.
Objection!
Who? There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Windibank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hand. Yeah, that mall tooler used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Give me that gun!
Bam!
Kind of
thing.
Hold it!
Stay exactly where you are, right there. If the crime had taken place as you've so colorfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out.
Goodness, are you sure, counsel?
Yeah, I talked about this earlier. You intrigue me, my learned friend, but let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where is the proof that demonstrates this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moment? That'd be the autopsy report, right? Yeah. A bullet wound from the back. They weren't facing each other.
Take that!
According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of, "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot.
Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe.
Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states
The victim died instantly after being shot from behind. Ah. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Ah, gaw. But it's the God's honest truth.
It is, Nash, it is. When he was shot that night,
the shopkeeper had a gun in his hand. We saw it with our own bleeding eyes. Oh? Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Windibank holding a gun? Something like that might have slipped out. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question they actually saw, with their own eyes, the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person.
Nash,
Yeah.
Arg. Ordar. Witnesses, explain yourselves at once.
Well, the thing is, it weren't supposed to. It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you.
Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies?
Ever so sorry, Governor. The truth is, see, we,
Cut it out, Nash, cut it out. If we blab now, you know what it'll do to us.
That's what I was thinking. Who are they talking about? A hard-boiled individual. Maybe. Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you. Bruv, come on, the game's up.
But he'll have our guts for garters.
In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out.
On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place.
Well...
Do we have to?
On pain of death. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. Scary.
Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug.
Give me that gun, he bellowed, and then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it. Oh, these guys are such bad liars.
For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter.
That I can believe. I pulled me gun on him, then he legged it through that door into the back room.
We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear.
So you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop. Oh, well, yeah. Sorry.
Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably.
But honest, Governor, this time...
This time, Nash, this time, we ain't got nothing more to hide. Very well. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. This is it.
The moment I've been waiting for. Oh, brothers. Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug. Why would you be so stressed out about the process of entering the shop? Afraid of being seen as you broke in?
Hold it!
When you say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Windibank. Who else? Sorry, I mean, that's right. Huh? We was keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously. We never thought no one was gonna come out of the back room like that. The back room being the pawnbrokery storeroom. Yeah, that must be where he popped up from. Only place he could have been. So it would seem the victim was already in the storeroom when those brothers entered the premises. Which means Ginny must have been in there at that point as well. But that doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Windibank into the storeroom with her at gunpoint, then why would we have merged from the same room all alone when the brothers arrived? Oh, I don't know. Did you see the accused at that time? What, that mall tooler? Couldn't tell you. No way, Cobber. We had a bigger fish to fry then. I mean, the old geezer just lost it. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and then flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it.
Hold it!
You mentioned that Mr. Windibank shouted those words in your previous testimony, too. However, you claimed that you heard him yelling them on the other side of the storeroom door. Oh, did we? But the truth is, he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he? Well, yeah. Was the victim, Mr. Windibank, wielding a gun at the time? Was he ever? Blimey lummy, a great ugly barrel he had, pointed straight at me and at me frontispiece. So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Windibank with the gun at that time, is that right? It is, Gov, it is. Spot on. Then all of a sudden, he came at us, he did. It was bedlam. I didn't know who was going for who. You were clearly all going for each other. Like Nash said, we thought we'd had it, I mean. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter.
Hold it!
Yes, I noted that you mentioned the counter in your previous testimony, too. Well, yeah, of course we did. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. That got tangled in some marionette, what knocked over a picture frame, what knocked them scales on the floor. Huh? So, in fact, it wasn't the sound of the gunshot that shocked you and made you knock those things off the counter. Well, Big Bruv here went flying over that counter like a gunshot, I can tell ya. Then the old geezer pinned him. He did, Nash, he did. If you hadn't been there, the bloke would have flattened me like a bloomin' pancake in seconds. At the time in question, the alarm was raised at the local police station by a secret cable from the pawnbrokery. There was a button under the counter used to activate it, which was presumably pressed by the victim. That's right. When the brothers fled the scene and back onto the street, they ran straight into the arriving police, didn't they? Poor Mr. Windibank. He did everything he could to protect his shop. I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room.
Hold it!
Were you intending to shoot Mr. Windibank?
Nah, never. I was just, looking out for me bruv, weren't I? He was being flattened, don't forget. By a man whose shop was being burgled, yes. And then, the man fled into the storeroom when you pointed your gun at him. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away, then ran off through that door and shut himself in. There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true. Huh. I wonder why Mr. Windibank ran away into the storeroom. What? Well, according to what everyone's saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him with a gun. Yes, that's right. Gina allegedly used Mr. Windibank's gun to threaten him and force him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Windibank's hands again? I have no idea, but that is strange, isn't it? This little inconsistency could be significant. I should make a mental note of it. Look, the point is, me and me bruv here. That's right, Nash, that's right. Me and me bruv here. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear.
Hold it!
You say you had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all.
Nothing, Gov, nothing. The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he?
Locked it was from the inside.
We know it was, 'cause we tried to open it.
But it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong, wouldn't budge an inch. So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could possibly have shot the victim, the accused Miss Gina Lestrade. Ugh.
It would indeed appear so. What say you to that, counsel?
I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could possibly have shot Mr. Windibank? Yeah. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Huh? What?
What's that look for?
From the moment you admitted that you'd encountered the victim face to face that night, the course of this trial changed completely. It did? What is your point, my learned friend? The question we must answer is who could have shot Mr. Windibank? And it is the belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all. You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts, so pray, what other possible answer to the question of who shot the man could there be?
Counsel, you must now provide answers to the court in respect of 2 conundrums.
2, my lord? Twice as many chances to be right, maybe.
Indeed, namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time?
Understood, my lord. Are you all right, Runo? I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospects hugely. So now, time for some clarity. Show the court on this plan the answers to the questions posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun.
Right here. Right here.
Take that!
The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here. And in answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time? Right here.
Take that!
The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. Huh. I thought it would be way more dismissive and arrogant about it, but... Huh. Mr. Windibank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved after death. Which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired? So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom? Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony, I pulled me gun on him and then he legged it through that door into the back room. If Mr. Windibank ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time. No. It was at precisely that moment when the victim was fleeing for his life that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom. Nah! Gog!
Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial?
Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. Oh, right. Yeah, the hatch isn't even needed. If they were prone on the floor from the scuffle... Yeah, well, I can see it. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself.
Poor man, shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety.
Ah, of course. He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body in an upward trajectory.
So the culprit wasn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Windibank.
Objection!
I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim the victim was shot as he fled into the room. Do you also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock? But what if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. Is that so? Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario just described, the defense's assertion is that the victim was shot from outside the storeroom. In which case, who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside? Gina?
Take that!
Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Objection!
That's absurd. You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room. For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck. I am inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it?
Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please.
Well, no. She would just shut and lock the door to defend herself against the gunman who just mowed down Mr. Windibank in front of her. But of course Ginny would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it? It does? Well, if I was Ginny in that situation, I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they? Oh, yes, obviously. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Windibank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Windibank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom.
Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv.
If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by the bullet, Mr. Windibank fell to the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done in that moment? I see where you're going with this. Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Windibank. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it, in order to save her own life.
Hold it!
But I mean, we ain't the ones who done it.
We ain't, Gov, we ain't. You've gotta believe us. I mean, come on. We'd never shoot no one.
Objection!
That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would. Because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes. There is only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Windibank's murder. Where does this leave us? You mean to say it wasn't the pickpocket who shot the pawnbroker after all? I should have known it was those three brothers. They look as shady as a dense forest. Oh, no, Gregson, why? Oh, brother. That was amazing, Runo. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now. I know. First time ever. And probably the last. Well, I think you've done it. Surely they'll have to give a verdict of no... Okay, you know when an anime man laughs with a keh, you know he's about to flip his shit. An admirable effort, my learned friend. What's this now? He's laughing.
You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zieks. I myself find the defense's argument most persuasive.
I dare say such Oh no. Oh no. Look, I am well aware that this game came out well before Better Call Saul, but come on, man.
This game about lawyers, man, and the chicanery. Oh, come on. Okay, by the way, Better Call Saul is a great show. You better watch Breaking Bad and then that show, because both are really good. I highly recommend them. But then again, if you haven't watched either, you're probably living under a rock or have already made up your mind, so Such chicanery is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial eastern nation. But such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here. What? The hypothesis you put forward so ostensibly credibly cannot and will not stand. Because, you see, it contains a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw? Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failing? I say, Lord Van Zeeks. Might be an idea to explain this bally conjuring trick or whatever it is to the troops on the ground, The fatal flaw in my learned friend's argument is really very simple to understand. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets. Oh, right. By George, count bullets? Oh dear. He noticed then. Huh? What's everyone talking about? Counsel. Yes, sir. Tell the court how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime. Two bullets. Correct. The first, that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, that which struck the detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, on his arrival at the scene. Indeed. The defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet earlier in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar. Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know there are two firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonging to the victim, Mr. Windibank, and the Skulkin brothers' revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun. Yes, indeed it does. A single bullet from each. Now then, my learned friend. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these two brothers shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes right before your eyes. Yes, I did. Oh my goodness! I think you'll find that if the single bullet that was fired from the brothers' gun hit Mr. Sholmes, it means... Windibank not shot by same gun. Stop. Only one bullet. Stop. Huh. Exactly. I almost want to say... maybe... the Skulkin brothers shot Windibank, and then they tried to flee, and then Gina actually poked herself out of the room and around the corner and fired her gun at a shape she saw in the dark, inadvertently shooting Mr. Sholmes. In other words, the supposed victims of each gunman was swapped. But that doesn't explain at all the way that the door was locked, or why Gina fainted. Ah, that's a big problem. It almost works, but no. It fails at the end. Yes, this Nipponese street performer presented an ostensibly credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick with no hope of standing up to scrutiny. Ugh. Warg! Ordar, Ordar, Ordar. Again, you really gotta shake the jowls for that third Ordar. Oh, man, that is never gonna get old. Oh. Again, the funniest thing about that animation is the way he holds it. Oh my god. I think that is the funniest possible way he could throw it behind his shoulder. Alright, pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dregs of this hallowed nectar into the public gallery. Lord Van Zeeks. But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can, regrettably, no longer be described as a juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with loathsome intent. Boy, he is really going for the jugular here. You know, like a vampire does. Heyo. As we can see beyond doubt in this print which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. That disc. I'll be taking that whatever it is of McGilda's down to the yard, thank you very much. No, don't give it to him. It's mine, that is, mine. I'm sorry, miss, but anything belonging to McGilda has to be taken in as evidence now. Yes, that music box disc. McGilda's music box disc. The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Windbank, the accused attempted to make off with this article, which clearly doesn't belong to her. And with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add, but by brute force and brazen impudence. Good gracious. Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on account of her years is misguided and dangerous. There are no depths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed, no crime she would not commit. She would never commit tax fraud, slander. The court forgets that fact at its peril. I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel. As a grim testament. Ooh. Lord Van Zeeks, Inspector Gregson? What? I am going to gently place you, dear viewer, on this cliff edge so you can hang on to it. Cliffhanger time. I'll call it here. Gregson has something huge to say. We'll figure out what the hell that is, I suppose. Right. Boy, from where I'm standing, it is quite difficult to say whether this trial will end today. No, No, of course it's not ending anytime soon. Of course it's not. There is so much to unpack. Unless... You know what would be the ultimate formula break? Subversion, rather? The ultimate subversion of this formula for the Ace Attorney series? What if we actually secure a not guilty verdict and Gina goes free, but then the case actually continues? What if... more than likely we're just gonna move into another investigation phase. At this point, the only way I can see that happening is if we manage to actually implicate a yet unknown party. Presumably that the Skulkin brothers mentioned, which is presumably Eggert Benedict. Presumably. But yeah, the increased hostility from Van Zieks is certainly palpable. He is very upset about the intercepted intelligence, I believe, is the story. Yeah, I'm thinking Japan did a no-no. Uh-oh. Well, yeah, I've pretty much run out of things to say, but as always, gods, I'm loving this. Every second of it. I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.